Welcome, Yankee. Camera, audio. Good. Kanti. Oh, this is somebody I'm not familiar with. Welcome, Kanti. Ricky McCarson. That's a name I remember. It's been a while, I think. Hello, Ricky. Metastable. Good to see you. So we're just going to give it a couple of minutes for people to roll in before we get started. Hello, Julie. Welcome. Hello, Jayanta. Jayanta, I'll be staying at Empty Cloud for most of all of May and most of half of June. So I'll see you there. Okay. Kanti is from the Discord group. All right. Very good. Hello, Anthony. Welcome. Anthony, send me a message on the Discord. I wanted to catch up with you. If I remember, I'll send it to you. But I've been thinking about you a bit lately, so I wanted to catch up and see how you're doing. All right. Oh, Kanti's Moria. Okay, it's good to know. All right. We'll get started in a couple minutes. Did everybody see the couple videos I've been putting out? Any commentary on those? Hello, Gautam and Bella. Welcome. If you go on that insight, the journey into homelessness, you can see the very first videos I ever put on YouTube. You can see Fat Joe before I had my weight loss surgery a long time ago. 2008, actually, was when I made those videos. All right, we'll get started in about a minute. Hello, Yoel. Welcome. Hello, Audrey and John. Welcome. Let's share screen and get started. Hello, Gretchen. Welcome. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Savatiyang tatrako bharanchavo bhikkave desasami. Varanharancha Varadhanancha Varanikke Pancha Tangsun Sunatta Katamocha Bhikkave Baro Panchupadana Kanda Tissavachaniyang Katame Pancha Rupupadana Kando Vedanupadana Kando Sanyupadana Kando Sankarupadana Kando Vinya upadana kando ayang vuchati bhikkave bharo katamocha bhikkave bharaharo puggalo tissa vachaniyang yavyayang ayasma evang namo evang goto ayang vuchati bhikkave bharaharo katamancha bhikkave bharadanang Yayang tanha pono bhavika nandiraga sahagata tatra tatra binandini seyatiddang kama tanha bhava tanha nivibhava tanha idang bucchati bhikkave bharadanang Katamancha bhikkave bharanikke panang yo tassa yeva tanhaya asesa viraga nirodo chaggo patinissaggo muttiyanaliyo idang vuchati bhikkave bharanikke panangti idang avocha bhagava idang vatvana sugato vataparang etadavocha satta Barahave Panchakanda Baraharo Chapuggalo Baradanang Tukang Loke Baranike Panang Sukang Nikipitva Garung Barung Anyang Barang Anadia Asamulang Tanhamma Buye Nichato Parinibbutoti. All right, English. The burden. At Savatthi, there the Blessed One said this, Bhikkhus, I will teach you the burden, the carrier of the burden, the taking up of the burden, and the laying down of the burden. Listen to that. And what bhikkhus is the burden? It should be said, the 5 aggregates subject to clinging. What 5? The form aggregate subject to clinging, the feeling aggregate subject to clinging, the perception aggregate subject to clinging, the volitional formations aggregate subject to clinging, and the consciousness aggregate subject to clinging. This is called the burden. And what bhikkhus is the carrier of the burden? It should be said, the person, this venerable one of such a name and clan, this is called the carrier of the burden. And what bhikkhus is the taking up of the burden? It is this craving that leads to renewed existence, accompanied by delight and lust, seeking delight here and there. That is, craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, craving for extermination. This is called the taking up of the burden. And what bhikkhus is the laying down of the burden? It is the remainderless fading away and cessation of that same craving, the giving up and relinquishing of it, freedom from it, non-reliance on it. This is called the laying down of the burden. This is what the Blessed One said. Having said this, the Fortunate One, the teacher, further said this. The 5 aggregates are truly burdens. The burden carrier is the person. Taking up the burden is suffering in the world. Laying down the burden is blissful. Having laid the heavy burden down without taking up another burden, having drawn out craving with its root, one is freed from hunger, fully quenched. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good. The burden. Okay, friends, well, welcome. It is Monday night. That means it's time for another 2-hour festival of Dhamma with the Maggasekha community, the Dhammapalooza. So those of you who are new or just joining for the first time, The way we do things here is for the next 2 hours, we do a variety of Dhamma related activities. We could do questions, we could do Dhamma talks, we could do sutta readings, right? And we did some chanting. Later, we'll do some meditation. Last week, I think was the very first Dhammapalooza in 3 years that we didn't do any meditation. Because I also kind of called it a little bit early because I was tired. But still, that was a very a rarity to have no meditation on a Dhammapalooza. So what that means is, as always, we don't know what the topic is today. We don't know how things are going to go. Every Dhammapalooza, when I make it in the YouTube, I only put the name and the date because we don't know what's going to happen. So this means that this is a community guided event. So in the chat, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer, you can put those in the chat. If you have any topics you'd like me to discuss or for us to discuss as a community, you can put that in the chat. Or we can read a sutta. I always have a sutta backed up. Hello, Ian. Visakha, Elaine has an interesting question. Can we please start with the meditation? That's interesting. That's interesting. Let's see if the questions die out, maybe we will do a meditation. But let's see if there's questions. And if there's none, then we'll do some meditation first. Might as well, what do they call it? Shake it up a little bit. Do things a little bit different. Hawk says in your last video about your energy nutrition cut off early. Yes, it cut off early because my phone ran out of space. If you, I put both a comment and in the description. I said the video cut out early. Read the description, and then I kind of explain a little bit more. I just put in the little bit that's left. So how I'm handling my lack of energy? Well, I try to see if what works. Like for instance, here at Line of Wisdom, I was only eating breakfast only a couple days a week. I don't think I've gone a week without having breakfast. But I was trying to, because I really like doing the one meal a day. I really like it. But I also, and I made a vow to do that for the rest of my life as a monastic, I want to eat one meal a day. But this is the reason why I don't make vows, because, and this is also the reason why I put in the vow, with the exception of nutrition or medical reasons, right? Because I know from reality, from living for, now 44 years of life, that vows are basically just asking to be broken. Vows are kind of like an ignorant statement that doesn't take into consideration change in the anicca in the future. But I still like doing that one meal a day. I really do, especially if I get a little cheese and a little chocolate at night, balance it out. Nice and easy. But from here on in, I've just accepted that in certain places, I'm going to just eat breakfast. And that might not even be enough, because I have been in, sometimes it really isn't enough. Because my stomach is, my stomach has expanded over the years from my weight loss surgery. However, I don't have the average American stomach. I still can't fit in like what the average person can fit in. So I am limited in that regard. Like if I have like I can't have like a big breakfast and then 3 hours a big lunch. If I have a big breakfast, by the time lunch comes around, I'm still kind of full. Um, so it's a matter of kind of working with it and trying to. And even if I had like there's somebody asked, well, what about protein powders and things like that? And those help, but those aren't a replacement for actual nutrition. They're just not. Um, so what I have to do is kind of accept that there's just going to be times where I'm not going to have energy and I'm going to kind of be lackadaisical and I'm not going to be productive and I'm not going to be that skillful. It's just not going to work out. I'm just going to be okay. Right. And so when I do have the energy and when I'm in a place where I do have the nutrition, then I can, you know, I can work. And that's okay, and it's like, even though I did have this spout here where I did go about a week or two without with energy issues here. Now that I have breakfast every day, and they have, I mean, I can always have like nuts and different things like that. So they have enough like extra things that I'm doing okay here for the most part. I mean, I could like do a Vasa here, like a 3 months. I could probably do that because they have enough extra little things that I can have. And I've been doing pretty good. I think both my practice and my Dhamma work has been pretty good and productive here. So when I'm in a place that it works out, I can find a good balance, then I do it. Then I get to work. Um, if not, then I survive. That's all it is. Um, you can only do what you can do. Yoel says, do you study Abhidhamma or the commentaries? Or are you a sutta only kind of guy? I'm a sutta only kind of guy. In the early days, I looked into the Abhidhamma. It's just, to me, it's an overly complicated thing that doesn't actually add much to the Dhamma. It doesn't add much to the teachings. As a matter of fact, I think it takes more license than what the Buddha was willing to give in many ways. And what I mean by this is there's a reason why the Buddha did not answer things. There's a reason why the Buddha kept things pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The Abhidhamma is like, I imagine it's like a bunch of like, kind of nerdy intellectual people who wanted to really be intellectual. And so they added extras. They're like, okay, well, now we have to figure out this and this. The Buddha says there's only 108 steps. Now we have to figure out how that can be broken down to 1,000 steps. And it's like, I don't think I'm going to care about that. Thanks. So for me, the Abhidhamma is not really worth it. I mean, maybe, in 10, 15 years, as I become more, um, you know, masterful of various things, maybe I'll look into it again. And the commentaries, most of the commentaries are in Pali. Most of the commentaries are not in English. So you need to literally be able to learn Pali to read the commentaries. And once I actually am able to read Pali, like I read English, then it might be interesting to read a lot of the commentaries, because really a commentary is a Bante G, a Tanasaro Bhikkhu, a Bante Analio, Ajahn Brahm from 1,000, 2,000 years ago, making a comment on something. So it's like, okay, well, let's see what they have to say. Just like the teachers of today is like, that I'm going to leave that. I don't think that works. Oh, this is pretty good. Do the same thing with the commentaries. Oh, I don't know that this person knows what they're talking about. Oh, this one's pretty good. Who knows? But but it's not something that really I felt that either at this point has ever really been a benefit to me. So it's not something I care about, to be honest with you. Now in the Buddhist world, like the that you will learn more Abhidhamma and commentaries than you will learn suttas in Sri Lanka, in Burma, and probably in Thailand too. So that's Abhidhamma reigns supreme, but not my thing. Had a boss at work offer me deer meat he killed on a hunting trip. It was awkward. Why? I mean, if you're a vegetarian, then okay, it could be offered. But I mean, if it's just meat and he's off, the thing about the reason why people will offer meat like this is because because I've known like poor people in rural places in America who basically hunt for their meals. It's like, so because when you kill a deer, or especially if it's like a big buck, you can have enough meat for your family for like 5 months, 6 months. Maybe you even have extra, so you give it away, right? And usually this meat is like the most healthy. It's not like this processed and horrible meat and things like that. So if somebody offered me meat that I killed the deer and Bante, here's some meat, I'd take it. Sure, no problem. Now, if they said, Bante, I wanted to give you some food, so I went out and killed this deer, and here's the meat, then I said, no, sorry, you did it for me. I cannot accept that. But yeah, that wouldn't bother me per se. It's just kind of what a lot of people do, you know. No Diego tonight. Nope. Hello, Hark. Hello, Hawk. Hello, Matthias. Welcome. Bill says, do you find any benefit in studying other vehicles? I think it's unskillful because they're coming from entirely different scripture, thus contradictions. Me personally, no. Now, what I will say is this. I remain open-minded that I might learn something when I engage with other monastics from other traditions. But I don't go out of my way to study other traditions. No need to. I have 5,000 pages of suttas. 5,000 pages is more than enough for one lifetime. Like, I have 5,000 pages. That's just suttas. That's not even Vinaya. And then you're talking about another couple of thousand pages. Like, I have like 7,000 pages. And I'm 44 years old, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to be alive. So it's like, no, I don't have enough time for all of these things. So for me, I know what works for me. I know what I'm studying. I'm content and secure in what I'm doing, and that's it. Now, other people, it's different. You have like a Bhante Sudaso from Empty Cloud, and many people like this, even monastics who kind of maybe they started in Mahayana and they moved to Theravada, or they, what they knew when they started getting into Buddhism, they only had like Zen around them. Like, so there are people who kind of have a mixture. And that's their path. That's not my path. My path is, I did, it's kind of my path. Cause in the beginning couple year, 2 years, while I was trying to figure out what kind of Buddhism I was in. I mean, there was a little bit of Tibetan Buddhism in there. I mean, I even had the little like the wheel, like spinning the wheel with the ball on the. I mean, I did a little bit of that. I went to the only place near me was a Tibetan. Well, technically it was a Mongolian Vajrayana, but Tibetan little temple. And so I did have a little bit of exploring the other traditions, but fairly quickly I found Theravada, and I found the Theravada monks and the suttas called to me, and I haven't looked back. I've learned things from other traditions, like, I mean, even though I have basically nothing very good to say about crazy wisdom, Trungpa Rinpoche, with his wonderful sila, um, there's at least one thing that he talked about that I learned from Pema Chodron, actually, that I think is 100% accurate and also is backed up in the suttas, if not explicitly, but implicitly. And that when he talks about the topic of idiot compassion, right? Because I think compassion is in the suttas. The Buddha's compassion is very different than the typical what we think of as compassion. And I think Crazy Wisdom Guy was on the ball when he talked about idiot compassion. I think that's 100% accurate, and I use it. I'm a Theravada monk who's a sutta-based fundamentalist, basically, and I use it. Right? So I'm open to learning about these things if they kind of come up in my experience is that the universe, karma, whatever, if I need to know something, I'm going to learn it. Right? It's going to come up somehow. I'm going to learn it somehow. So if it's something outside of the suttas that I need to learn to become awakened, it'll pop up when I need it to. Right? It'll come up or just when the time is right, it'll be there. Hello, everybody who's joining. Well, we have almost 20 people. Chat's kind of quiet, though. So if you're new, please say hello in the chat. All right. Greet the community. Maggasekha, student of the path community, say hello. And if there's no other questions, maybe we'll do some meditation. But I do see that Gregory does have a question here, and he's giving some commentary just for clarification. So, as I understand it, is the point of right action instrumental in that it prevents obstacles to meditation, for example, or is it an intrinsic good in and of itself? For example, if killing animals is bad because it interferes with our ability to meditate, or is it a moral evil in and of itself? For example, are those who might kill animals for a living suffering from these actions, or is it just that they are making it hard to follow the Buddhist path? I would say both. You know, it's the five precepts, right? Just to go over the five precepts, the Buddha calls them five faultless gifts to the world. Right? These are unadulterated from the beginning, meaning it's like there's no honest, sincere, wise person would have anything bad to say about these things or that they're not worth doing. Right? These are things that are worth doing. Now, it just so happens, like, so not killing. Right? There's a couple different things here. There's a couple different things. So yes, following the precepts and even going further than that is of benefit to your meditation practice. If you do not have good sila, your restlessness and remorse will not help you go further. So that's definite. That's a definite. But also, I would say there's if you want to talk about it in terms of ethics and philosophy, you see in the sutras where the Buddha will say, all beings fear the rod, right? All beings fear hurt, pain. So it's that kind of golden rule of, you don't like being hurt, killed, attacked. No being does. So one should live with a rod laying down. And so there is this kind of ethics there. And that's where I think you have metta, right? This is where metta and karuna, like the Brahma Viharas, come in. In addition to, like trying to get it samadhi. And you understand, that this is something that I don't want to do. I don't wish to harm any being. I don't think I've killed anything in my life, anything larger than a bug. And I believe this is because of past life practice. The few times that I did, I still kind of feel bad about. I vividly remember, just like how I always joke about, I vividly remember stealing my neighbor's pen in 4th grade, a pencil that I needed to use, and I asked him, and he said no, and I took it anyway. Like, I still have this here, top of this kind of, not regret per se, but it's still vivid in my mind that I just took this person's pen, even though he said no. And just like I remember being young, and part of what being young was, what the kids did was, there was fireflies, especially in the summer, and people would catch your fireflies, and you'd rip out the thorax, the glowing part, and you'd make, like necklaces or whatever you do. And I remember doing it once or twice, and I just didn't like it. It just wasn't my thing, right? And even though I was like a survivalist, I trained to be a survivalist, and I wanted to even learn how to, like, how do you dress an animal? Like, dressing doesn't mean putting clothes on. I mean, it's like, how do you, after the animal's killed, you make it so that you take the organs out, and the meat doesn't get spoiled, and etc. So I learned all these things. I even, I was a gun owner. I had lots of guns, but I never killed anything with those guns. I mean, if the world became like a zombie apocalypse or something like that, or, I'd have to survive, I probably would have, at that point would have killed to survive. But I never really, it wasn't something that I grew up with. It wasn't something I wanted to do. And so I just never, I don't like wanting to kill anything. But on the other hand, I'm also like okay with the reality of, like, this is the reality that we're like the thing with the hunters. Like, okay, so my value is I don't want to kill anything, but this is the nature of the world. This is how we, I can't, it would be kind of like if I was like, I condemn every single one of my ancestors going back 100,000 years who killed animals to survive. It's like, well, I mean, I wouldn't be here. Like, this is the nature of nature, is that animals kill each other to survive. This is the nature of things. So that stuff doesn't bother me. Like, even though I was a pretty sensitive, big-hearted kid, like I'm not this kind of, I've never been this kind of person that's like, oh my God, an animal is like, it's like, there's like at the retreat today, there's something, some raccoon, was kind of dying or whatever. And, all these like very good hearted, like, I don't know, people, if they just like went off on this, like trying to save this raccoon. And even like they called the animal things, and the animal things like, well, we'll most likely euthanize it. And they're like, what do you mean? It's just, I'm like, come on, guys. It's like, dude, like let's have a little bit of reality here. It's like sometimes people go a little bit, they're emotionally kind of reactionary to things to the point where they lose track of reality. And so while on the one hand, it's like, I don't want to kill anything and I feel bad about killing a bug. Like when I was in my survivalist times, I remember like practicing, well, what is it like to just eat an ant? And I just picked up an ant and I ate it. Like, and I kind of still feel bad that I ate that ant. I mean, um, and I can see that in me. And that's just part of my training. It's like, I tried to join the military 3 times in this life because I have that kind of karma of being a warrior. I know I do. It just feels, I can feel it. I can understand it. But I'm going beyond that now. My karma is I'm going beyond that. So, I guess I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, I would say that there's more to ethics in Buddhist thought than just because it'll help you with your meditation. Certainly. Oh, hey, one hell of a guy. Good to see you again. I'll get to your question here. Um, Julie says, any recommendations for determinations a layperson on the path can make besides meditation, sila, sense restraint, and reading the suttas? Oh no, I'm sorry. Metastable had a question. Okay, I'll do this and then I'll back up to Metastable's question. The determination, I think the best determination is the determination to not quit, to be determined, to understand that there's going to be ups and downs. Right? There's going to be times where you're zealous and you want to practice more, and there's going to be times where you feel so averse that you don't even want to practice for days, maybe even weeks. But eventually, then your mind says, let's get back. Let's go back to the practice. Right? So that the determination and the aspiration and the wisdom to just keep going, just keep practicing. It's going to be ups and downs, peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. You just keep practicing, right? The determination, I am making the determination in this life or in future lives to become awakened, to follow the Noble Eightfold Path. And then you do it. That's the most important determination. The rest of it will come. The rest of it will come with, because once you're determined, then you will do it. You will meditate, develop your sila, sense restraint, read the suttas, etc. Most important is to make the practice not only part of your life, but your life. And I don't mean like becoming a monk or a bhikkhu or a bhikkhuni. That's not what I mean. I mean like you integrate the path into your life so much that your life and the path are basically the same thing. You're basically living the path. And then the rest comes. Metastable says, what is your biggest hurdle you're currently facing along the path? I think my biggest hurdle these days is that I feel like I'm starting from scratch again. And that's actually a good thing. Because now it's like once I realized that, now I'm starting to almost get that investigation zealousness that I had in the early days. And what I mean by starting from scratch is like, and I've had this intuition now for a couple years, for maybe 3, 4 years at least, maybe 5 years. I've gone as far as I can go on what I've developed so far. I need to go deeper now. And I don't know how to go deeper. I mean, yes, I know from the suttas, I know that I how to go deeper, but experientially, I don't know how to go deeper. I have to develop the tools and the techniques and the wisdom to understand how to do it. And so that's what I'm doing now. Right. So in a way, it's like I've started over. I've reached a point where further advancement is much more subtle, much more refined, much harder than all the practice before. And so now it's like I'm a baby again. It's like I'm a baby in the Dhamma again, which is, again, I'm actually happy about it because now, like, once I realize, I was like, that's where I am. Okay, time to start and ramping up that investigation power and start figuring things out again. Right. And then I can feel the zealousness starting to come up again. Right. I can feel like I'm starting to get the power that I had again, that I had in, the pre-monastic days. And that's okay. That's good. So my practice is ramping up again, and I'm feeling better about that, because for a lot of years, like the last 4 or 5 years, I've been feeling kind of lost, and everything that happened to Bhavana, and the busyness and all the stuff that happened to Bhavana kind of didn't help that. It made it worse. But now I'm past that. Now I'm climbing the mountain again. Um, and so it's a hurdle, but at least at this point I understand the hurdle. Um, and I'm moving forward. Questioning, investigating, observing, trying to understand, and then practicing accordingly. That's what I'm doing these days. Yul says, "Are you familiar with Ajahn Tian? He's a big on a super practice. I'm reading, getting a lot from his autobiography." Actually, I was given his autobiography by these monks in Dhammagiri Monastery in Australia. I haven't read it. I've heard the name, but other than that, I don't really know much about him. One of these days, I should actually get to reading his autobiography, maybe. Um, but yeah, I don't really know anything about him. Kanti, should we avoid unnecessary activities if we notice unwholesome mind states arise when we engage in them? Or should we use it as a way to practice counteracting the unwholesome mind states? Now, this is the thing. If you can avoid, if you can actually choose, and with your willpower and your wisdom power, just not do those activities, then don't do them. Yeah. Listen, they're not worth it. If the only thing that arises is unwholesome mind states, and you see that your craving and your delusion and your ignorance are increasing, then don't do them. Right? Just let them go. Now, if you do them, if you can't let them go and you do them anyway, then what you can do is use that as an object of investigation to develop your wisdom. And you do that over and over and over again, sometimes for years, and eventually you overcome it. But if you can abandon the unwholesome mind states, then you abandon them. If they cling to you and you're not able to let go, you don't have the wisdom power to let go, then they're teaching you. They're an object of your meditation. One hell of a guy. Do you have advice on dana when you have very little to give? Buddha says that one who is poor, who gives, that the little that they give is actually worth more than if a rich person gave a lot. Right? So think about what you can give that won't hurt you too much. Right? Because it's quite actually one of the things that Buddhist monks, one of our jobs is to train lay people. Right? Like new families. Now these days in Buddhist countries, you don't need to. The culture trains the lay people. But in the West, actually, what you see in the Vinaya is makes sense again, because now there's Westerners, people coming to Buddhism, they have no idea. Well, guess who's training them? The monks. So that's part of my job. Part of my job is to train you guys to understand dana, right? To understand what you do to support monastics. And one of the things that monastics should do is, if a family is giving too much of themselves, that it's harming themselves, the monks put them on probation. What does this mean? I'm not coming to your house. You're doing very well. You're giving of yourself, but you're harming. So we're not giving you the opportunity to give to us. Right? You're on probation for being too generous. Right? Isn't that's a cool thing, isn't it? I really like that. So you have to be, this is what the Buddha is very clear. In nowhere in the suttas does the Buddha say sacrifice everything for of yourself. Never. He says the opposite. Never sacrifice yourself for others, no matter how great the need. Right? That's in the Dhammapada. Because it's always about yourself and others. You want to do what's best for yourself and others. Right? You're not harming yourself at the expense of helping others, or harming others at the expense of helping yourself. Both of those are wrong. Both of those are unskillful. You want to do both. What is best for both? So you give what you can. Money, time, effort, going to do a little bit of work at the monastery for a couple hours a week, whatever. That's what you give. You do what you can. If it's like me or whoever, like the online stuff, well, share videos. Share the monastery's stuff. That helps. Like if everybody who was on my stuff like shared my stuff, more people would find it. Same thing with Empty Cloud, same thing with Bhavana Society, same thing with the Bhayagiri, same thing with all these different places. It would be, more people would see it, and that would be good. So there's lots of ways to practice dana. Lots of ways. Matthias. Well, my contact with teachers are all online listening to Dhamma talks. Okay, that's just how my practice was for I don't know what, maybe the first 6 years, something like that. It feels comfortable, easy. Do you think there's a danger it can be too easy that way? Better to challenge more, to interact. I would say that if you can, even if it's like a 5-hour drive or a 6-hour drive or whatever, every once in a while, if you can get to being around monastics or if lay teachers or whatever in person, then do it. Even if it's just once or twice a year, then do it. But this actually is kind of like what I see happening since COVID. Like before COVID, it was very common that monks traveled to, like in a couple of weeks, I'm going to Arkansas, for 4 days. I'm going to be leading, doing teachings there. And this is something I did like monthly before COVID. But now people are like kind of like, well, it's just kind of easier to just get the monk on Zoom. And it's just not the same. It really isn't. You don't get the same energy. You don't get the same dialogue. Like how I used to stay in people's houses and talk to them at meals and I don't get the same Dhamma energy looking at a screen where most of the people on the Zoom are just a black screen. I'm talking to a black screen. It's just not the same. So being able to be in a place together makes a huge difference. But if all you have is online, then that's perfectly okay too. All right, you all have a good one. Julie says, what is your favorite part about being on the path? Favorite part about being a Buddhist monk? My favorite part about being on the path is the meaning and peace and contentment that it brings me. Yeah, I guess that would be it. It's just such a good way to live, right? And it gives me a quest. It gives me an ideal to strive towards. And a way to develop myself, trying to get better every day, more wise, more skillful. And that's probably the same thing about being a Buddhist monk too. The path is kind of the same. And the other part about it is being around now. I mean, this is not everybody. I mean, I've literally had to deal with like sociopathic monks and monks who are not good people at all, who are very unskillful, and fellow Dhamma practitioners as a layperson, even as a monk. Also, I've dealt with a lot of bad, mentally ill people in monasteries. But on the other hand, I've also been able to have connections and relationships with some of the best people I've ever met. The most wise and people on the path who are worthy of being like a brother and a sister. And that's a rarity. I think in general, on the Buddhist path, you'll find more mentally ill people, and also more people who are better than the average person, right? Who are practitioners. So that's the other part. Being around those people, right? One of my favorite quotes from Ajahn Chah that you hear me say often is Ajahn Chah says, "There's no suffering like the suffering of a Dhamma practitioner. There's no joy like the joy of a Dhamma practitioner. Dhamma practitioners are tops." I agree with that 100%. There's a few people from lay life, like my best friend from lay life, Rafe, who's not a Buddhist, but who are good, sincere, virtuous seekers, questioners, seekers of truth, right? There, I know half a handful of people like that in the world who are not Dhamma practitioners, but the overwhelming majority of them are Dhamma practitioners. My favorite people to be around. And new people on the path. One of my favorite parts about being a teacher or sharer of the Dhamma, one who shares the Dhamma, is like a parent who sees like themselves in their child, right? I love when I see the lights open in people's eyes when I'm sharing Dhamma with them or I'm answering their questions. When I see somebody on the path and I'm like, I remember that. I was there. Like when I talk, Yoel's not here, but Yoel will hear it tomorrow. Like that kind of like zealousness, like that. I remember, like I was like Yoel once. I remember that. That goes away. That doesn't last forever. But I remember that period, you know. And I've met many people who have also gone through that period, and I've seen them kind of mature out of it, you know. But it's like an old person watching the energy of youth and kind of getting something out of it. So I enjoy that part as well. All right, Kanti. Well, I think you're gone already, but hope maybe you're listening to it tomorrow. So good to hear from you. Hello, Dharma learner. Welcome, my friend. Um, does Bhante Rahula teach in a similar manner to others, or does this style have more yogic practice? Bhante Rahula is a singular person. He's quite different in his teachings. His teachings are going to be either they're going to be perfectly right up your alley, or you're not going to get much out of them. He's yeah, that's what I'm going to say. He's an interesting character. Uh, so yeah. Perennial Daydreams. I think this is a name I'm not familiar with. Um, I don't know if you're new or not, but welcome. Uh, when first starting to study and practice as a layperson, is it okay to take refuge but be involved mostly with online Sangha and to wait a bit before taking precepts? Well, usually to quote unquote become a Buddhist, you take refuge in precepts. um, Officially, I mean, you can do both before that. You can live by the precepts before you have become a Buddhist. Um, if you're kind of not ready to take the precepts as in to like start living your life by them, then it's okay. Yeah, dip your toe in a little bit. Maybe take one on or two, right? Slowly move into it. And then eventually start to live by the 5 precepts. As far as online sangha, if what I say is this: if you have a in-person sangha that clicks with you, that you like, and that you benefit from, go to that. And you can also do online. If you don't have that in-person sangha, then online is okay, no problem. I don't know what this is in response to, Gretchen, but you were my first online teacher from Second Life. What was your name on Second Life? And I was, and yeah, I'm about to be 45 in a month or two as well, so we're the same age. Um, okay, oh, this is maybe about like online versus in person. Um, yeah, that's a tough thing. If you click with somebody, if you click with a teacher, or you click with a monastic, and you're not near them, well, then it's okay. It's you just. I mean, there's. Oh, Holly. Okay, yeah, yeah. He's like, I like Bante Sujato and Ajahn Brahmali, but I live on the other side of the world from them. I mean, I've got to meet them in person now, but I'm never in my life gonna like have daily interaction with them. So I watch videos, right? Bante Sujato is just doing this new series on meditation in the early Buddhist texts. Like, okay, I mean, I can email him here and there, and I can watch videos, and maybe once or twice more in my life, I'll go to Australia and I'll see him in person again, and that's okay. It is what it is. One hell of a guy. There are mentally ill people who are great people, Bante. And yes, that's not. I know what I said might have come across as bad, but again, I am somebody who, my career being child protective services, I've had a long career of working with people who have all kinds of mental health issues. Um, but still, yes, and we even had one gentleman who would come for retreats once or twice a year who was schizophrenic. But he would have some weird behaviors, but he never, caused any troubles really. It's like we just kind of, so no, but there's been, mental people that have mental illness um, can wreak a lot of havoc. Especially if they're kind of like the dark triad type stuff. Um, and that's really where I was meaning towards. I mean, there's just like in my years of Bhavana, I had to have talks with people and say, listen, I'm sorry, like we can't have you be here. Like you have to go. So yeah, this is not what I mean. And I mean, I know personally a monk, a very successful senior monk who's bipolar. So it's good to say these things. Sometimes I guess I do take for granted that people might not know my background and that I'm not being mean or negative about it. So, I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks. Apparently it says, I've watched many of your videos, but this is my first time attending live. Ah, okay. Very good. Welcome. Kala, you going to Italy with them in May? Oh, maybe I'll see you when I go there in May. Hello, Sin. Good to see you. April 7th. So you're going to you're going to Italy with Bante. Well, yeah, I'll see you because I'll be there because I'm covering for Bante and I when they're in Italy. So yeah, I assume you're going to be their lay steward to help them while they're doing their pinta pots and things like that. I am covering for them. I don't. One of these days, I might go to Italy with them. Um, when they deem fit to bring me. But on the other hand, I think they might know that I might have trouble doing the pinta pots that they do. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get to Italy one of these days. But yeah, I'll be there till June 12th or so before I go to. Um, I'm spending a month and a half babysitting one monastery, and then I'm going to spend a month and a half babysitting another. That's what I do. I have like I'm like the A team of running monasteries. Need to go away from your monastery for a month? Call Bante J. Here, I'll come. Uh, I have a very particular set of skills. All right. Oh, we have a good showing today. 24 people. Welcome. If you're new, say hello in the chat. We are coming. We are coming close to the point where we should probably look into doing our meditation. If there's no other questions or anything like that, maybe we'll do that. That will leave us so that after the meditation, we'll do some, if there's any other questions, and if there, we'll do some Dhammapada reading maybe, and then we'll call it a night. Thank you, Sin, for getting people to like the video. It helps with the algorithm, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. YouTube, monks on YouTube are pretty siloed into their own Buddhist silos. So it's not like random videos are going to go much past that. Um, but I appreciate anybody who tries to help share, make the channel a bit more aware for people, other people who might enjoy it and benefit from it. Did you say you have met a sociopathic monk? I'm wondering why they became monks in the first place. Oh, there's lots of reasons to become a monk. Westerners don't have this understanding because they have this very particular view of a monk, which almost doesn't exist in reality. But if I wanted to, I could go to Buddhist country, live like a king for the rest of my life, get fed the best food, get bowed to. Nobody ever questions anything I'll ever say. I don't have to do this meditation thing, work the path. That's kind of hard. Maybe I'll just watch a little TV. Very easy to do. It's very easy. There's lots of bad reasons to become monastics. In the old days, why do you think most of the reasons why certain people are people who have certain diseases, people who have certain, like, who are debtors, people who are wanted by the law? There's lots of reasons why people become monastics. And a lot of them aren't good reasons. So yeah, you have to be careful in the monk's life. Just even if people have good reputations, you still have to be careful. Yeah. You don't give your, like I always tell people, you don't just give away your agency to people. You always need to keep your agency. Um, and one of the mottos that I had, that we had, that was part of my, the and this is a pretty common motto in things like police, child protective services, etc. It's called trust but verify, meaning that somebody tells you something, you can give them the benefit of the doubt, but you should verify if they're lying, right? Like I'm going to trust this monk, but I'm going to verify it. I'm not going to just blindly trust this person. Um, so yeah, yeah. I went through. I'm kind of getting out of it, but I went through a couple years, maybe 4 years, where I became very cynical of monks as a monk, right? I mean, as a layperson, you don't see it, you don't know. Um, but once you get inside, you start to see, oh, there is kind of an act that's played. Like, it's very easy to kind of put on the airs of a monk. Like putting on the robe is like putting on like becoming the actor. And you can look very like, I am so meditative and peaceful. I look like I'm an arhat monk or whatever. And then you see their actions behind scenes, and like, ooh, this is reality. I thought like that there was a separate reality where all these monks were like these wonderful, perfect beings. And then you see is like, oh no, okay, the reality that I always known is the same reality, right? Like reality doesn't magically change just because you're around monks. No, that's not how it works. People are people, and that's how it is. Tyler, welcome. I think Tyler, you've been with us before. Maybe that name is ringing a bell. If not, welcome, one way or the other. But how do you tell the difference between sloth and torpor and tiredness? Did you get enough sleep? If you got enough sleep, it's mostly sloth and torpor. That's how you tell the difference. If you got enough sleep, your nutrition is good, then it's sloth and torpor, right? Because there is this connection also with the mind that the average person, the average person who's not a meditator, the only time that their mind is quiet and peaceful is when they're about to go to sleep. So the mind is trained, peaceful, quiet mind equals sleep. So you have years and years and years ahead of you of training the mind out of that peaceful, quiet mind equals sleep. That's an aspect of it. And then there's also the aspect of your investigation, following your breath. Breath might get bored, and that's because you're ignorant. You don't see anything more interesting in it. You start to get bored with it. Well, maybe you have to spend a little time away from the breath, investigate something going on in the body, get energy back, banish your sloth and torpor, then go back to the breath. It's okay, but make sure that your nutrition and your sleep and all that is good first. Then you can know what's sloth and torpor, and then you can practice understanding it. Hawk says, I'm relatively new. I watched a lot of Dhamma videos, among others. Brandon says, Dhamma gang. Well, yeah, join the club. Guess who's part of the Dhamma gang? Back 2007, when I started to try to find monks talking Dhamma, There were three monks on YouTube. The third one's not really well known, and you don't really see many of his videos. I don't know if he's still alive anymore. He's an older monk. There's Bhante Yuttadhammo is the first internet monk, and by internet monk is the other monk who I said too. The other monk is Ajahn Brahm. The issue, Ajahn Brahm's not an internet monk, and what I mean by an internet monk is like me. Right? Bhante Yuttadhammo is really the first internet monk. And what I mean by that is he was on it. He was uploading videos. He was taking questions and answering them in Ask a Monk. Like I have Ask a Bhante. Right? He was the first internet monk. He was also literally the first monk I ever heard speak live on Second Life in the Deer Park at the Buddha Center in a virtual world. Right? And I taught there for many years, even as a monk. I was a layperson and a monk. So yeah, it's like a large part of the reasons I do what I do on YouTube is because I'm following in the footsteps of Bhante Yuttadhammo. I'm paying it forward. And honestly, I think we need way more monastics doing this. Bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, having channels, sharing Dhamma. Thankfully, since COVID, that's happened. There's a lot more than there was pre-COVID. But in the old days, it was slim pickings. Ajahn Brahm, Bhante Yuttadhammo, and a few things here and there. Even somebody says Thanissaro Bhikkhu, Brandon's like, back in the old days, there are no videos of Thanissaro Bhikkhu. I think because he's very kind of averse to being videoed doing Dhamma talks. You can get audio maybe, but there's no like videos of like. First time I ever saw Thanissaro, Ajahn Jeff was like maybe 4 years ago on a YouTube video. I was like, oh, that's what Ajahn Jeff looks like. Okay. After, listening to his talks and reading his stuff for 15 years. Yeah. Yeah. Brandon says those old Ask a Monk videos of his are great. Yeah, you can even see every once in a while a post from me. Because I posted in those comments way back in my lay days. You won't know the name though. I didn't post as my monk YouTube because I didn't have a monk YouTube. Tyler has a good question. And to what you're talking about, how do you reconcile taking refuge in the Sangha when you see monks behaving less in noble ways? When you take refuge in the Sangha of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, you're not taking refuge in me. Or even Bhante Ji, or Thanissaro Bhikkhu, or Yuttadhammo Bhikkhu. You're not taking refuge in any of those monks. That's not what you're taking refuge in. That's not the Sangha you're taking refuge in. Has nothing to do with bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. No. If you want to know, look at the chanting. When you ever hear you at a place, you hear the beginning of the chanting. Itipiso Bhagava Araham Samma Sambuddho. The qualities of the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. You look at the qualities of the Sangha, you will see the Sangha that you're talking about. The 4 pairs of persons. The 8 kinds of individuals. That is the Sangha you're taking refuge in. You're taking refuge in men and women, either lay people or bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, who have attained at least Sotipanna. So you're taking refuge in the Arya Sangha, the noble Sangha. These are not regular people. Right? So that's who you're taking refuge in. People who have attained at least the first level of awakening and who are bound for awakening. That's who you're taking refuge in. You're not taking refuge in bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. Okay? Now, when you're supporting bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, then what you're doing is you're not supporting the individual. See, the problem is it's human nature that we get attached to an individual. Right? You go to a monastery that teaches, and maybe there's 4 or 5 different monks teaching, but you really like just this one. This one is really the one that, and you get attached to that one. And you kind of have a desire to only support that one. But no, the whole monastery needs supporting. Because in the monastery, there will be bad monks and there will be good monks. If there's a monastery and there's 100 monks and only one of those 100 monks is a good monk, that monastery is worth supporting. So you're not supporting the bad monks. You're supporting the sangha, the monastic sangha, in spite of the bad monks. That's what you're supporting. And the senior monastics there should be saying, hey, monks, you're debtors. Look what these monks, look what these people do. These people sacrifice and give to you. You're a debtor. You should be working. You should be practicing well. Like when I'm a senior monastic, if there's a monk that comes to my monastery and they ain't doing it right, man, they're out. Peace out. Goodbye. I'm not going to have these, people causing trouble, and because I've seen it, I'm not going to see like what happened to Bhavana. I'm not going to allow that to happen in my place. It's not happening. Right? No compassion. No. Buddha was tough. Buddha was calling people. This is people who, again, overly compassionate about all compassion, this and that. They don't see that the Buddha kicked ass, man. The Buddha was like, get the heck out of here. Like, unskillful people, harmful people, he called them useless people, right? Now, these days it's translated, even, Bhikkhu Bodhi translated as foolish people. But if you look at the Pali word, it's way harsher than that. It's way harsher. Even like Bhante Sujato is even more kind of compassionate, more peaceful. It's like, I forgot what he uses. It's like, I don't remember what it's even less rough than foolish people. But the Buddha is like useless people, right? Like when he calls you out, right? And it's for the benefit of the other people. It's like these people are harsh, especially monastics, right? Thieves in the Dhamma. The Buddha does not have good things to say about people who dress in robes and who are unskillful, harmful, bad people. He says they cause harm. He says he lists a bunch of things that are not as bad, like karma-wise, that are pretty bad things. But being a monk who is an unskillful, bad monk, you're creating way more bad karma than even that. It's not a good thing. So, man, if there's a monk, right, and like I want my monastics to know that they can come and tell me if stuff is happening, right? Because I need to know. I want to know what's going on in the community, and if there's a monk who's causing trouble, out. Sometimes you got to cut out the cancer for the betterment of the rest. So, it's unfortunate, but a lot of monastics do not understand. A lot of abbots, people who lead monasteries, don't really know how to lead and how to build a community. They just don't. It's just not something that they were learned in lay life, and it's not something they were trained as monastics. Brandon says, those old videos of you at Bhavana led me to subscribing. All right. And Gregory says it perfectly well here, as the Buddha says. It's through dealing with a person for a long time, that his purity may be known. And then only after a long period, not a short period. For instance, I lived with Bhante Ji for 5.5 years. I know the real Bhante Ji behind the scenes. Right? Most people will not know that. Most people know Bhante Ji from the books and from maybe going to a retreat and listening to Dhamma talks. I've had the ability to do that. And there's people who know Ajahn Brahm behind the scenes, Thanissaro Bhikkhu behind the scenes, because they lived with them for years. You get to see, right? That these, what stage that these people are at, and what they, kind of how they react to things, how they choose to do things. And you understand, and you learn what to do from them, and you learn what not to do from them. You can always learn from somebody what to do and what not to do. The funny thing about Bhante Yuttadhammo is this. Bhante Yuttadhammo and I are the same age. Actually, I think I'm almost a year older than Bhante Yuttadhammo. That's the funny thing, isn't it? Right? But he's a Mahatera. He's 20 years in robes. Right? So he became a monastic basically right when you can become a monastic. He became a monastic. We're the same age. I became a monastic a lot of years later. And he was helpful for me on my own path. Right? Same age, same generation. All right. Chat's quiet. So why don't we do 20 minutes of meditation? That'll bring us to 50. So let's do our meditation. Real quick. I appreciate your in-depth response and level of integrity that you hold for yourself and the community. Well, one of the things that I've always tried to do before when I was a layperson, I always tried to allow people to see me, for better or worse. Right? I never tried, because I never liked people putting on airs. I don't like hypocrisy, and I don't like fake people. I never have. And so this is why I'll talk about how I fail and break rules, and how I'm, dumb and things like that. It's because I want to make sure that I never lead anybody on, and I never fool anybody, and that so people know what they're getting with me. I always want to make sure. And that hurts me. Why? Because I know that because I'm not as dignified, and because I'm a bit more open, people don't see me. I don't kind of get as a respect that another monk might get. I get that. And so I kind of understand that. But for now, I think it's worth it. So it is what it is. All right, so let's do our meditation. All right. Set your body up in a comfortable and stable position. We'll scan through the body a little bit from the toes up to the head. Moving through the body, checking to see that your body is situated in a way that's comfortable and stable, not going to cause pain and imbalances. So put your focus and attention on the feet. By putting focus and attention, this means to focus in on whatever sensations arise, like the feeling of the feet pressing against the floor, the cushion, the couch, etc. Moving up through the ankles and into the calves. Through the knees and into the thighs. Or is the feeling of the thighs pressing against the floor, the cushion? Up through to the hips and pelvis. Paying close attention to how the position of the hips and pelvis impacts your lower and upper body as you're observing your posture. You're ready, move up the spine through the abdomen and the chest, checking that the spine is not leaning or slouching, resting comfortably in its neutral position. Allowing your chest to have a full range of movement for breathing, unobstructed. Moving up to the shoulders, make sure they're hanging loosely. Down through to the elbows and hands. And up to the head, checking that the head is also not leaning or slouching here or there. Once you're done, setting up the body in comfortable and stable position, let the body go and take 3 deep breaths. Then let the breath go. From here on in, try not to manipulate or control the breath in any way. This body has been breathing from the moment you were born, will continue to do so until the second you die. Doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is to simply observe, investigate, and abide with the breath. Watch as this body breathes in, watch as it breathes out. Whenever you get distracted away from the breath, try to come back to full mindfulness and focus. No need to get agitated. Let go of being attached to whatever the distraction is. And then gently come back to the breath over and over. Remember, acknowledge, let go, and return every time you're distracted away from the breath. Acknowledge, let go, and return. Slowly open your eyes. Become aware of the room around you. Compare the state of your mind now from before the meditation. What's changed? And contemplate any experiences you had during the meditation. Julie has a question. I remember you saying that Bhante Ji kicked me out of the monastery. Is this typical part of monastic training? He didn't kick me out. What happened was I needed a break from the monastery, and we were about to get into the lockdowns, and I chose to kind of lock down. And in the early days, it was only going to be a couple months or whatever. Lockdowns were supposed to be short. Then they turned into this kind of tyrannical, crazy thing, but that's a different thing. But anyway, so I was going to take a break from bhavana and just kind of be with my family and things like that. And so I, was there. But then after a couple of months, Bhante Ji basically said, don't come back for a year. And I was like, well, I was about to leave. I mean, I was going to leave in a year or so. It just kind of worked out that, it just worked out that was my time to go. And so I wasn't there. But it is also like, if you are a famous teacher, you might be kicked out after a while, to make room for other people to want to ordain. It's like, hey, you've been with me long enough, out, go to one of the other monasteries, go whatever. So yeah, it depends on the situation, but yes. I've never been to a monastery nor heard of a monastery where most of the people who are ordained there stay there for decades. That's just not how it works. People move on. Some people stay in some places for decades, but it seems like the majority move on. All right, let's do some Dhammapada reading. All right. Flowers, the Pupavanga. Pupa, not as in poop, but pupa. P-H-U-P-P. Who shall overcome this earth, this realm of Yama, and this sphere of men and gods? Who shall bring to perfection the well-taught path of wisdom, as an expert garland maker would his floral design? A striver on the path shall overcome this earth, this realm of Yama, and this sphere of men and gods. A striver on the path shall bring to perfection the well-taught path of the wisdom, as an expert garland maker would his floral design. See, this striver on the path, these are the kind of people that I want to be around. Strivers on the path. This is what I am, and this is who I want to be around. Realizing that this body is like froth, penetrating its mirage-like nature, and plucking out Mara's flower-tipped arrows of sensuality, go beyond sight of the king of death. As a mighty flood sweeps away the sleeping village, so death carries away the person of distracted mind, who only plucks the flowers of pleasure. The destroyer brings under his sway the person of distracted mind, who, insatiate in sense desires, only plucks the flowers of pleasure. As a bee gathers honey from the flower without injuring its color or fragrance, even so the sage goes on his alms round in the village. Let none find fault with others. Let none see the omissions and commissions of others, but let one see one's own acts done and undone. Like a beautiful flower full of color but without fragrance, even so fruitless are the fair words of one who does not practice them. Like a beautiful flower full of color and also fragrant, even so are the fair words of one who practices them. As from a great heap of flowers many garlands can be made, even so should many good deeds be done by one born of a mortal, by one born immortal. Not the sweet smell of flowers, nor even the fragrance of sandal, tagara, or jasmine blows against the wind, but the fragrance of the virtuous blows against the wind. Truly, the virtuous man pervades all directions with the fragrance of his virtue. Of all the fragrances, sandal, tagara, blue lotus, and jasmine, the fragrance of virtue is the sweetest. Faint is the fragrance of tagara and sandal, but excellence is the fragrance of the virtuous, wafting even amongst the gods. Mara never finds the path of the truly virtuous who abide in heedfulness and are freed from perfect knowledge. Upon a heap of rubbish is the roadside ditch blooms a lotus, fragrant and pleasing. Even so, on the rubbish heap of the blinded mortals, the disciple of the supremely enlightened one shines resplendent in wisdom. All right. Let's close out, my friends. So, friends, if you are seeing this for the first time, or if you have not yet, please check out my website, Maggasekha.org. Scrolling on the bottom there, Maggasekha.org. Here you will find everything that I do. I post in terms of news, also articles and various different things you can find there. On the top right hand of the page, you can put your email in and subscribe. And then anytime I post something new, you will get an email. Same thing on YouTube. You can subscribe, click the bell, click all. And anytime I do anything, you will get an email telling you that something has come up, like a new Ask Abante or a new video or a new live stream, a retreat, whatever, this stuff will come up. Oh, friends. So Monday nights are Dhammapalooza, 8 p.m. Will be Dhammapalooza again, same time next week. Monday through Friday in the mornings, 8 a.m. We have Morning Monastery Experience, which is a half hour of little chanting, precepts, and a little bit of Dhamma teaching to start your day with some Dhamma and some good practice. And Insight Timer, Saturdays at 3 o'clock for an hour and a half of good Dhamma, some meditation, teaching, and Q&A. And that's about that, I suppose. We also have the Maggasekha online Discord community. So this is a community which is focused both in practice and study of with the framework of the early Buddhist texts, the suttas. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, you can send an email to the email listed on the page, maggasekha@gmail.com, and ask for an invite, and I'll make sure you get an invite. All right, friends, let's do our sharing of merit and close out. Dukkha patta chane dukkha, bhaya patta chane bhaya, soka patta chane soka, hantu sabbe pipaniyo, etta vata cha mehi sampatang punya sampatang, sabbe deva anumodantu, sabba sampatti siddhya, akasatta chabumata deva naga mahidika punyang tang anumoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief. May all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, friends. Well, Sukhihotu, may you be happy, practice well, and be well. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again. Have a good week. Shin is here too. Hello, Shin. Shin, yes, tomorrow. Yeah. Tomorrow we'll do MME. So I'll see you guys in 10 hours. Right? 10 hours for morning monastery experience. Have a good night. Hello, Rupa and Jim.